What's up, y'all? Today, I want to show you the culmination of 9 years of persistence as a glider pilot. I flew a 1,000-kilometer declared triangle in the Great Basin, setting a personal best and winning some national and international awards. My first attempt at 1,000 kilometers was accidental. Ben and I flew out of Minden, hoping to do an 800-kilometer triangle out to Austin, Nevada, and back. I launched first and scratched around on the low hills until he towed literally over me and found our climb out. It was an easy run down to the Sierras, and we got some great views. Then we turned towards Austin. The lift in the middle of the day was fantastic.
27, glider 8. This line is on fire.
When we finally turned around, I saw lots of storms. They were completely blocking the path back to Minden. I decided to try and go around them by going back the way we came, south towards Mono Lake. This was a huge diversion and would add a lot of distance to the flight. It would also add a lot of time, but thankfully our speed had been high and there was hope to make it back before the thermals went to sleep for the night.
Climbing at 5 knots now if you want to come find me.
Lift got weaker for a long while under the shade of the spread out, but there was still a large cloud over Mono that gave me a good climb. I could at least make Topaz, a dirt strip, in the last valley before Minden, so I went along hoping for one final climb. Ben was somewhere behind me and had been struggling in the spread out. He kept calling out his position to me, and he let me know that he would probably be landing out. Unfortunately, there was not much in the way of thermals, but the air was very friendly most of the way, and I slowly gained more margin over the terrain to Minden. Ben's situation also improved, and his planned land-out spot was getting closer to Minden. I took one final weak climb near Topaz and raced into Minden, expecting to need to hook up Ben's trailer and go find him. I opened up my tracker once on the ground only to see that Ben was already in the valley with plenty of altitude to make it back. I had put in 990 kilometers for the day and realized one of my long-term goals was now in reach. I had planned months before to stay a week in Ely this year. I arrived the prior afternoon and rigged my glider. Here, the day starts at 10 a.m. or even earlier. The weather looked great, and I had already planned a 1,000-kilometer triangle. The task was from Ely, past Parowan, and then north to Heber Valley and back. I found out later this was an unusual route, but it looked good to me. I had made nearly all of these legs before in the past year, and the weather looked good for it. The only problem? I didn't know if it was possible. The tow plane had not yet arrived for the week, and neither had my wingman, Thomas. I self-launched at 10:15 and found a thermal very quickly and was on course. The key metric today was estimated arrival time back to Ely. I really wanted to make it back without relying on weak thermals or worrying about the sunset. At the beginning of the task, it takes some time to climb out, and I also cruise more conservatively to avoid taking risks too early in the day. So it usually looks like I won't make the task in time, but I count on my speed improving throughout the flight. On the first leg, things looked the way I expected from the forecast. The first clouds were supposed to be in this direction, which is why I chose it, but they were also supposed to get lower the farther south I went. That was also the case, and the only difficulty on this leg was getting a little low west of Parowan under some weak and spread out clouds that blocked the sun from making good thermals below. I could still see hope ahead and safe landouts, and I continued along with patience. I eventually found a thermal that got me high enough to continue onto the mountains ahead. My first turn was west of Zion National Park at Pintura. It was aptly named. It indeed looks like a painting.
Glider 8, Parowan, 13,300 northbound.
The spread spread out had turned into showers and some lightning, which sparked a couple of fires and pop-up TFRs. I was constrained both to the east and west, but north towards my next turn point still looked good. The scenery from Zion up the Wasatch Plateau is really something special. My working band had been 10 to 15,000 feet until this point. Getting past all of the rain, it started to rise, and therefore, so did my confidence and speed. My ETA was looking reasonable, and for the first time, I thought I might actually complete the task. Abeam Schofield, things would get interesting again. From spending a week in Nephi last year, I knew the terrain here was high and inhospitable. But I still reckoned I could just take it slower for a little while to make the Heber Valley and find a way to climb back out. Although such terrain always gives me some extra anxiety, it turned out to be easier than I had imagined, and I made my second turn point at the edge of the Uinta Mountains. I crossed the mountains east of Salt Lake City without finding much lift, and continued in a dead glide over the Utah Lake to my lowest point in the flight. I wasn't too worried about this because I saw so many dust devils in the valley before me, and I did find a monster climb that quickly got me back up to the clouds. The best line back to Ely seemed like it was on the edge of this huge restricted area, R6405, so I tried to call the controlling agency, Clover. Nobody ever answered me, which is probably because it was late on a Sunday. So I looked up some of the alternate frequencies associated with the area and had success with Salt Lake Radio. They told me the area was cold and it was okay to cross VFR above 10,000 feet. These were the best conditions of the day, and my ETA looked great.
Tally ho, bro.
Yeah, tally ho.
I made it back to Ely with no worries. The only thing left to do was touch the finish cylinder and land. I finished my FAI triangle of 1,001 kilometers at 125 kilometers per hour in just under 9 hours, without following anyone, without water ballast, and without a tow plane. It also finished my SSA Gold badge and 2/3 of the Diamond badge. I felt really great after this flight, and it made me feel like I had really accomplished something and that I had grown as a glider pilot. This was an effort nearly 9 years in the making. I have learned an incredible amount about the weather, flying, and myself in that span. I am determined to practice, and only in the last couple of years have I flown enough so that I am able to string together pieces of flights that I have done before into longer, more interesting, and funner adventures. There's nothing magic here, and I believe anyone can do the same if there is will enough. Get out there, practice, push yourself, make mistakes, learn, and most of all, have fun in the process. See you in the skies.